Ben, co-founder, host, MeidasTouch Podcast and MeidasTouch Network. Thank you for being up here.
It's great to be here. It's my first summit, so it's great to see familiar faces, new faces.
Number 14 top podcast in the U.S. according to Edison Research.
Well, we got to make it number one. If you use the YouTube video charts, we're 1 and 2 depending on the week. And if you use Podscribe, wherever G is over there, it's number 1 on Podscribes.
Love to see it. One of the most fascinating things to me about MeidasTouch, and specifically the work that you do, is just the sheer amount of content that you put out on a regular basis. So can we actually just talk about your setup? Like, how much content are you putting out? And I think people might not know what your literal setup looks like in how you record.
So let's talk about the literal setup. So I live in La Cañada. I have a 1-year-old. I have 2 dogs, Taquito and Chaquito. And you will hear them barking a lot in my podcasts because I record from my living room. My wife made me get a closed door recently, but until then, open door. And I would have my 1-year-old, now 14 months old, crawling around, watching me do the podcast. But it's right, the setup's right there in my living room. I have an office there. I wake up every morning, roll out of bed, depending on the day. Maybe jump in the shower first, maybe not. The audience seems to like it a little bit messier. And then we start early. You know, I'll do video recordings the night before. My setup, just to get technical, like what does your device look like? The entire setup is probably about $2,000. All of the equipment that I use, and that includes maybe $3,500 if you include the laptop. But I use a Microsoft Surface laptop. I use a Sony, whatever it is, ZV camera. I have 2 lights that I bought for about $125. That's basically the entire thing right there. That's it. You know, I have a team of editors, though. Obviously, I don't edit myself. I don't take that task on. And then the night before, I will record 2 videos for the morning. And so I start off with a 4 a.m. and a 5:30. I record that in the evening. Then I wake up in the morning around 5:30, 6 a.m. I record a 7 a.m., an 8:30, and a 10 a.m. Then I'll shower. Then I'll take a break. Take a deep breath. And my wife's like, you got to have breakfast. I made you something. Then there's an 11:30, a 1, a 3:30, a 5, 6:30, a 7:30, a 9, a 10, and a midnight usually. Sometimes if we want to get another creator in, I'll do a 1 a.m. The videos are about 9 to 15 minutes in length. And as we get a little more technical, the YouTube algorithm likes that length. I get 2 programmatic ads in there, and I get a host read ad read in there as well. Different CPMs, obviously, which we could get into. But, you know, the news cycle is breaking. I mean, just think about today. If I was going to launch programming today, and didn't address, we won't get all political on everybody, but if I didn't address the release of these Epstein emails and I started talking about something from 2 days ago, you'd watch it and you would say, what's going on there? I mean, that doesn't really make sense. Are you even following what's taking place? Or what if I interviewed a senator, one of those 8 senators, the Democratic ones who sided with the Republicans. But what if I interviewed them and did a podcast with the very exciting Jean Shaheen, and then I launched that one after her vote? People would be like, dude, what are you doing? So, you know, we have to be in the constant news cycle every single day. But there's about 10 to 12 videos every day, and usually 1 to 2 live shows every day, about 60 minutes in length. So there's the live pod and then the 15 minutes. But we just call them all simulcasts, and we sell them to advertisers as simulcasts. The 60-minute has 4 ads in it usually, sometimes 5, and then the 15 minutes have 1 ad in it. You see, I gave away my whole playbook already, Jim.
I mean, I take away from that, thank you for being here and escaping your living room.
It's good, yeah, it's good to be here. It's the first time I've gotten out in a while. I'm not joking about that, it's true. See, human beings versus emojis.
And so then you also have an overnight shift, right?
I mean, my baby. Yeah.
I mean, for your network, like you guys are also publishing throughout the night.
We're publishing throughout the night, but then a lot of that, I'll rely on contributors who you may see on the network. And those contributors will give us videos throughout the day, more evergreen content. And that's the 6, 7:30, 8, 10, midnight types of content. But if there's a big breaking news story, like I'll look at that oh, if there's vegetarians, I was going to say steak. I look at it like something that I need to record. Let's just say
you can't resist.
I have to be able to record, and I get obsessive about making sure that I'm responding to the breaking news of the day.
There's so many places we can go with this conversation. I mean, you literally are doing the most. So what was the insight? I mean, I've talked to you previously, and we talked a little bit about how you're building a cable news competitor. So I want to talk about if that was your original insight, or if how that came about, and how you feel you're taking on linear.
Yeah, my original insight, I had no clue what the hell I was doing. Like, I did not even know what podcasting was. I was a civil litigator, graduated from Georgetown Law in 2010. And I did a lot of cases, civil rights cases in Bakersfield and Fresno area, a lot of wrongful death cases. I then linked up with Colin Kaepernick because I was doing a lot of police brutality cases. At the time I was in Bakersfield, they had the highest police shooting death per capita in the United States. And I was representing all of the families, marching on the front lines with families, learning some insights into media, not like intentionally, just interacting with media on these high profile shooting cases, linked up with Kaepernick. Then I pivoted from like litigator to helping him build his business, Kaepernick Publishing, because no one wanted to do business with him during the first Trump administration. He was basically blackballed for all intents and purposes. He was Kaepernick. Get that son of a bitch off the field was what Donald Trump said in Huntsville, Alabama. And so when no one wanted to touch or work with Colin, he came to me and said, hey, can you look at my contract? Can you do that? I had no clue what I was doing, but I did it. And then I got great insight in how to build a business with Kaepernick, kind of especially in the post-Trump era. Lots of people at first wanted to do deals with us. So I did lots of deals with big media companies, learned that. And then during COVID, me and my brothers were just very scared. We didn't know what we were doing. And so I wanted to give back somehow. So I Googled, literally, what do you do? And I saw start a political action committee. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. Little did I know how detested political action committees are. It's like the worst. It's like worse than a mosquito. But I also learned in doing the political action committee that I really didn't like politicians. I didn't want to chase a single person because I think a politician or any human being, if you cheerlead for them, is going to let you down inevitably. And what I found interesting was the connection I was building with people versus pushing people to vote for somebody. That just didn't intrigue me. And then I kind of saw what was missing right around 2021 after the January 6th insurrection was I thought the media networks were not doing the right job contextualizing what was happening, just speaking in a very unapologetic and direct manner about the threats that we faced. And so also when you're a PAC, you buy ads. And I found that when I was doing that, I was a renter versus an owner. So I could put my message on for 30 seconds, but then the entire news cycle is undermining my message. So what's the purpose of that? So I identified the problem. I didn't fully realize how to strategically deal with the problem. But then I saw what Mr. Beast was doing on YouTube and other people. And it hit me, why wouldn't news work on YouTube? YouTube was used as a place where news networks would dump their content, just throw it away like trash, And I said, what if we started as YouTube as home base and really gave it the tender love and care and made that the media network? Like, why wouldn't that work? And so we tried that when nobody was talking about independent media. Now everybody, it's like the biggest catchphrase, pro-democracy, unapologetic. Like that was us in 2021. And lots of people were making fun of us for what the hell are you doing? You're on YouTube, you're getting 500 views, 1,000 views. I mean, when I did a live and there was 20 people in it, I was excited. The first, I'm like, there's 20 people. And I remember when there was 500 people, I forget where I was with my wife. I was like, 500 people are here. But we just grew it day by day. We focused on the community and the audience. We started increasing the programming to the schedule that I told you. And then we had a big 2022. It's like, okay, this is working. And there's starting to be some revenue. 2023, oh shit, excuse me, this is a business right here. This is a business and we're doing good for the country and people love this and we're having a huge impact. Then 2024, I think we started growing rapidly. 2025 really is when people started noticing these numbers and saying, wait a minute, like you're doing the same amount of views as Fox. I said, yeah, where were you? That's what we're doing. And then we've kept on building on that by focusing on the community. So it was kind of an accident. And my answers are long-winded. You can tell I'm a podcaster. Just kidding. I'm not even going to let you ask a question. But that's how we ultimately built it to where it was. It started by kind of an accident, recognizing I care more about the values and principles than the politician, and then building a media network around values and principles. And I think that's what really, we know who we are. I could react to any news story based on the values and principles framing, and that's what the audience has come to love and trust.
I want to dig into the framing, but maybe just stick on the YouTube and the kind of cable competitor part of this first. Do you have any sense of how many people are consuming your content on quote unquote living room devices versus, I guess, in what context are people consuming?
I'll give you the high level number. So on YouTube in a given month, about 300 million to 350 million YouTube views a month on the Meidas channel. On Facebook, about 475 million there. On Insta, I'm going to botch the Instagram. It's a lot of numbers on Instagram and TikTok, but I don't want to give you fake numbers. You'll have to get Brett and Jordy back. But I would say across platforms, it's close to 1 billion. I think that's a fair number, 750 million to 1 billion. And not like engagements, like actual, like people viewing, not that engagements are bad or impressions, but like people viewing the content. But then we have not just Meidas proper, the mothership, if you will. We then have 8 channels underneath the network, like you may have seen on CNN, Adam Mockler, who's our Gen Z voice, who debates with all of the Republicans. So we partner with people like that. We have the Adam Mockler channel. Katie Fang leaves MSNBC, the Katie Fang channel, a legal channel, Legal AF channel. Aaron Parnas, who you've seen on TikTok and elsewhere, the Aaron Parnas channel. So we have about 8 to 10 channels like that as well. So if you add all of those up, I think the number is probably closer to 2 billion views every month on a consistent basis.
And do you get the sense, are people putting this on as like in the background companion type of watching, or are they actively like, I want to watch the news right now?
Right in the veins. So, as I spill water, I'm right in the veins. No, people consume it. It's a great question because people consume it different than cable, and it's why I think it's appealing for advertisers and why we convert so well. Cable, the background of the dentist and the doctor's office. I keep saying dentist. I've had like so much dentist stuff lately because whatever. I won't get into that. I see. They think I have like a subscription to the dentist lately because of whatever. But you just see it in the background. People watch this and like study it, and they trust you in a very unique way that harkens back to the reporters in the heyday of reporting. And so you have to take that responsibility very seriously with the audience. So it's very interactive, right? So on YouTube, we have memberships where people have the emojis that they interact with. So after the big victories last Tuesday in the election, we had an Abigail Spanberger. When she wins, release the Spanberger emoji, and then people use that. When Prop 50 passes, release the Gavin emoji. And Mikey Sherrill emojis. We also have I should mention this. We're international as well. Before I forget, we have Meidas Canada, which does very well in Canada. We're the number one, go back and forth, but often the number one podcast in Canada as well. We're going to expand to Australia and other countries. But it's a very personal viewing experience versus a passive viewing experience.
It seems that you would probably be on the radar of all these cable networks. Have you gotten any calls from them interested to do business with you guys, licensing, anything?
Yeah, yes and no. I know, maybe it's in my admin at MeidasTouch inbox that I need to open more. But we've been on some of those shows. The reality is, that's not all that appealing to me because we're building something that is, that I think is special. And not that I wouldn't want to license footage to wherever. That's not really something that I'm actively looking at now. But, when MSNBC did an interview with me and my brothers, like they played the full thing on their Saturday programming, as they try to develop a feel of can podcasts work on TV. So they've done that. But
do you think podcasts can work on TV?
Yeah, I mean, but I think TV should work on podcasts. Like to me, I often get asked, why don't you get a cable network? Like, don't you think that your cable network would, I go, they want to do what I'm doing. Why would I want to go there? Like they're all trying to figure this out. Like why? So but here's the thing. I don't see a massive difference between what a podcast is anymore and what a cable news show is. People consume YouTube, as you were saying before, in their living rooms, and they turn it on and they watch it like they'd watch Fox or MSNBC or CNN. And so I think it all works. One of the things we focused early on is the concept of a simulcast. And it's just funny to think we all know what simulcasts are now. But in 2021, when I would speak to advertisers, they'd be like, are you a YouTuber or are you a podcaster? I'm like, it's a simulcast. Like, we don't know what that means. And because it didn't fit into a box, it took us about 2 years to convince advertisers what a simulcast was. And I credit if you're watching this, Jordy and our great team, G and others, and our sales team to go out and teach people what a simulcast is. And now everybody talks about that. So I think that innovativeness also is something that we were pushing as well, that built the business. And we built this business with no outside investors at all. It was just zero outside money has come into this business. And we built it just based on bit by bit, and then the cash flow was able to expand from one editor to about 8 editors to about 30 employees. And if you have our independent contractors, we have about 60, 70 people with all the independent contractors too.
I want to get into the business and how you guys make money and how it breaks down. But first, since you brought up investment, there has been reporting about you guys potentially taking on investment. Is that something that you can talk about openly?
It's all off the record, right? I'm sorry. There's been a lot of interest. I mean, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but you look, it's a business that does well, and it's a business that's very, very, very profitable. Those are good things. And especially in media today, marrying those two things, I think, is special. And so as we look to the future, I ultimately see the numbers of these of what are my competitors, if you will. And I see these numbers about, Fox is doing 6 billion dollars in revenue. We're doing well. I ain't doing $14.6 billion in revenue. But the question for me ultimately becomes, there's inflection points along the way, which is, at what point do I get from here to there so that next time we chat, I can actualize those goals? And my goals are a very aggressive acquisition campaign horizontally with all of these YouTube channels, and roll them up, right? The same way Sinclair, or you name the radio station, has 5,000 stations or whatever it is. I want to do that digital. And so my hope is that right now we have about 8 to 10, including the one in Canada. Next time I'm here, it's 50 to 100. And then the next time I'm here, if you'll invite me back, if I let you ask questions, then we'll get to...
So I'm inviting you or you're inviting me?
I'll interview you, and then we'll get to... But that's what the goal is.
So let's talk about the business. You've mentioned multiple times, obviously YouTube is huge for you guys. They have AdSense. You also have mentioned you selling ads through your team directly. But there is sort of this knowledge that it's very difficult to sell ads when you are a political show. It's just difficult for advertisers. So one, I'm curious if after the podcast election, if that has changed. And then secondly, I'd love for you to kind of break down for us, is the majority of your revenue coming from AdSense? Is it from direct sales? Is it maybe from the subscriptions? Can you help us understand the revenue breakdown?
I think ultimately you have to convince the advertiser you can convert for them, and that you're not so high risk that the conversion will supersede the risk. And so that's a calculation that, of course, they're going to take. And I think we're very sensitive to that. I mean, we do a very diligent job, I think, in the ultimate reporting and the product. But ultimately, we convert. I think ultimately, when the metrics are there, we have like a 94% renewal rate amongst advertisers. And usually when we don't get a renewal, it's because they're moved out of the podcast space. The one area, candidly, that we're breaking into more and more right now, but where I'd like to see us break into more is I don't really have the same relationships I do with the podcasters with the traditional advertising agencies that advertise on cable, and they're paying a $45, $50 CPM or more for not being able to track conversions and less audience. So for me, I'm charging, and G's going to get so mad if I butcher my rate. He's in the sales team. Like, don't give him the rate. Well, it depends. The YouTube CPM could be around, for the AdSense, is about a $5 to $7. And then my host ad reads usually blend, depends on the advertiser, around a $30 to $25 to $35 CPM. And if someone buys bulk, I'll discount it. If they do a 7-figure buy for the year or a high 6, I'll change it versus a one-off buy. And you'll see if G's upset at me for giving that playbook away at the end of the day. But that's it. But you can do the math and kind of figure out I'm not trying to give it away, but you can kind of figure it out, right? If I'm doing 300 million views a month and it's about a $5 CPM, and you do the math, you can kind of figure it out about what the ads, I could tell, it's not a secret. I could tell anybody what their AdSense is probably paying them. And then if you see me reading an ad, I probably charge, depends on whatever, 10 grand to 15 grand for that host ad read in it. And so the way it monetizes is 2 reads plus 15 grand per video, X times a day. I mean, that's a simple math formula, and that's the business model on the YouTube side. And again, we're all good here because I said off the record, right? Like
these microphones mean nothing, and the cameras.
Well, it worked for Lindsay Halligan, so it'll work for me as well. Bad, horrible political joke. And then our Substack is has been a great addition. Our RSS feed. So I do about half of the YouTube videos that I do go on the RSS feed a day. When I launch the hour-long podcast, I try to give that room, so that's the only one of the day. Maybe I'll do 2 that day on the RSS feed for just the audio, but otherwise I can do about 6 audio a day, and I sell it as a simulcast. Is how I do it. Am I giving away too much? Okay, good. Okay.
No. I don't think so. You're doing great.
Okay, good.
Kind of pivoting to a little more of just the media and political media in particular. The conservative side of the podcasting space really does a great job of coalition building. Even when they have beef with each other, they're going on each other's shows. They're kind of building a reality show, almost like the characters and the stakes and what's going on. Do you find that on the left? I mean, there's not as many popular left podcasts, but are you finding that there is friendly nature in that space?
That's absolutely growing right now. And so, in my space, you probably see someone like a Brian Tyler Cohen who's on YouTube a lot. And so someone like me and Brian Tyler Cohen and a Dave Packman and other people like that are very close. We're all close friends, and we all support each other and don't view it as competitive. The rising tide rises all ships, or whatever the expression. It's a more elegant expression than that. So we have that, but I also want to innovate in this area. And so Adam Mockler is a great example of bringing people up. So I met him when he was 21 years old, and I saw how great he was with 3,000 subscribers. And then I said, let me show you what we're doing on Meidas, and let's build, that's how I'll scale. And so he went from 3,000 subscribers to 1.7 million on YouTube, and it's a very profitable engine. And he follows our model, maybe slightly less videos than I do, but basically he follows that model. And so I'm Aaron Parnas. I met Aaron when he was in law school. He went to law. He's like Doogie Howser's this kid. He went to law school when he was 20. But anyway, I met him then, And I didn't realize, well, I don't want to go there, but I met Aaron then and helped him, provided as much support as I could. And to see him take off is great. For me, the more people I think who are doing well ends up benefiting me. Now, I'd love for them all to be attached to the MeidasTouch network, obviously, because the way my business model works with them is that I have rev shares with them and as part of my partnership deals. But even if I didn't, I'd want to help them because I think a robust ecosystem is helpful for everyone. And I'll give you an example. By now, you all probably have seen some of my two favorite ladies in the world from the I've Had It podcast, and they're absolutely crushing it. And so they're not part of the MeidasTouch network, but I lent them, as if you speak to them, any resource that we had, any advice and guidance along the way to be helpful, because exactly what you're saying, on the right wing, they have all of this support. Oftentimes because they're funded. They have huge amounts of funding too to be able to do that. So with our position, I do my best to lift up other voices.
But do you find that people are established players in the space are offering you that same access? Like, do you find that others are wanting to help you?
I think the good problem that I have, and I'm not trying to be like, I don't need their help, but there's not someone we have the largest, our YouTube views do better than Fox's YouTube views at this point. So I'm in a fortunate enough space where I don't need to look to someone to say, hey, can you help? I don't want it doesn't sound like an arrogant trait. I'm not trying to be like that, but
take the victory lap.
But in all seriousness, but I want to use my platform that I built to uplift others right now, and that's been the most important thing to me.
I should have pointed out when we talked about your business revenue, you didn't mention Spotify, and you guys do put video on Spotify. So how has that been going?
The true answer is I think well. But you're going to have to ask Brett and Jordy on it. It's a little bit of a blind spot. I know since we started Spotify video, they've really enjoyed interacting with the Spotify team. And, the Spotify video feature, if I recall, has been relatively new on the video side. But my brothers they've really enjoyed it. But I was lumping that in with my RSS feed because we'll put those same videos that reside on YouTube on that, and we'll just make that content go in other spots as well.
The way you were talking, I guess I'm curious, one, do you consider yourself like a journalist or a commentator? Or how do you conceptualize your role in the media ecosystem?
I try not to ground it. Thank you. I try not to ground it in me. And I think that's what's a little bit different than some of the right-wing ecosystem. I don't call it the Ben Meiselas show, and I don't try to promote myself personally all that much, because I truly don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the network, because I view myself as the co-chairman of a successful media network. That's how I view myself, and that we are an independent news network. And on that independent news network, we do news and we offer opinions. We have reporters, and I see myself as in a friendly-ish way, as a competitor of cable, versus I don't use the term creator or influencer or things like that. I won't judge people who use the term influencer, but when people say, are you an influencer? And I go, that's not what I am. I'm always trying to make that very clear. I said, I'm running a media network and we're providing news. I'm not really trying to influence you in anything. I'm trying to tell the story. And sometimes I happen to have opinions on these things. And so I view myself as a news network, no different than MSNBC or CNN or Fox or ABC or CBS. I just happen to also be on-air talent as well sometimes, which is a funny dynamic, and business affairs also.
There was a lot of noise when the Trump administration launched the new media seat. Is that something you, for example, as a news network, is that something where you should want or are able to put a body in the room? Do you feel you need people on the ground in DC, for example, doing original reporting?
So we have Aaron Parnas on the ground in DC. By the way, the same way we have journalists on the ground in Ukraine. who do an incredible job, and we could be decentralized because there are just incredible people who do the best reporting. Like I have this guy, Ken Harba, a Navy veteran who's in Ukraine. He's on the front lines, like literally shooting down Russian drones while reporting for Meidas Touch, like on the front line. Like you don't see that anywhere else. And that's something that he would do often without us. But now that he has us, we can amplify that as well, which is great. And now he can get the views. It's such a great question, though, about like would I want to be in the White House and be gaslit by Caroline Leavitt every day, and would I want to be there and ask Donald Trump? At some point, I just don't know the utility sometimes of being in there and experiencing the degree of propaganda that's being spewed. But I think Aaron does a great job in DC. And then we'd have partnerships with people. Like there's a great group in DC called Migrant Insider, and they have a reporter who's on Capitol Hill, often asking questions the same way Manu Raja would. And then we partner with their Instagram channel and we get out the content. So that's kind of how I've leaned into people who are already there. But I haven't really thought if I wanted to be in that room with Caroline and see some of those ridiculous answers.
You haven't thought about it at all?
I mean, I think about it, but then I got to do another video.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we have to cut it there, Ben, but thank you so much for coming up here. This is awesome.
Thank you.